Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Matt and this is the 5th episode of my Creating Link Shortener tutorial. In this episode, we'll create a cluster in MongoDB Atlas and we'll hook the very first API. So please hit the like button, subscribe and enjoy. Our frontend does everything what is required to do to process our links. Now we need to define the API which will allow us to shorten links. So let's code some backend. To implement the API of our application, we'll need to store data somewhere. One of the options will be to use MongoDB, which there are several providers that offer MongoDB as a service. I decided to go with MongoDB because it is easy to use. We don't need to do an extra configuration. We can just use a cloud database service and create our database there. So to host our database, we are going to use MongoDB Atlas because they offer a free MongoDB database as a service. I'm not going to walk you through the process of signing up and creating an account. I will directly go to the cluster configuration. As you can see, I already have created my organization called individual and the project is called Shortener link. So now we need to build a cluster by pressing this link. And I want a shared cluster which is free. Now I can choose my region. So our application will be deployed to Vercel, and Vercel has servers in California. So we need to find a database as close as possible to the California, so we don't have any delays. As you can see, the closest location AWS is Oregon. Let's check Google Cloud. It is Iowa, so no, and Azure. And Azure actually has a service in California, so let's choose California. And we can press create cluster, or we can actually rename it. So let's call it YALS cluster 0. Create cluster. And now our cluster is being created. And voila, our database has been created. Now we need to create a user which we'll use to log into our database. We can do this by creating database access on the menu on the left hand side. Let's add a new database user. Let's call it YASLDB and some password. How to generate secure password. Let's copy the password and proceed in some editor. Username as well. The permissions are okay, but let's press add user. And now our user has been created, so we can actually use it. Let's go back to clusters. And now we press connect. So we are going to use our database only in our application. So we press connect your application. And we are going to use Node as the driver. So we can simply copy the snippet which database generated. And now we can go back to code. As you can see, we have in our directory list, we have a section called API. And there is a file hello.ts. So here we are going to copy the code generated by MongoDB. Let's paste it here. So now to take advantage of the database, we need to install MongoDB into our project. So let's go to console. So we need to kill our server. And we type npm i -- save MongoDB. Database has been installed. Now we need to install also types for this database. So we type npm i -- dev types / MongoDB. And now we can restart our server. Now our application is running. So let's open Postman, which will help us to make HTTP requests. Let's create a new request. It will be a GET request. We type localhost 3000 API/hello. Let's try. And we got some information from our backend. Let's see the console. And there is some deprecation warning, but we can actually ignore it. As our API works, we can start to implement our link shortener API. So let's go back to code. Let's rewrite this import. We are going to use a different way of running imports. We will go use Mongo client from MongoDB. It looks more aesthetic. As you can see, the TypeScript is complaining that those parameters are not type. So to fix it, we need to go back to our console and install this dev dependency Vercel/node. Vercel node contains the definition of the responses, which will be very helpful when we start to develop the API. So let's import it. Import now request, now response from Vercel node, and now request, now so from now on, our IDE will know what is the contents of those two arguments, which will make development way faster. Let's take a look. Request contains, for example, a body. It contains headers. It contains cookies. Basically everything what is needed for us. So now we can actually code it. I'm going to comment for a moment this MongoDB connector and save. And we are going to rename this API because it's not going to be called hello, but shorten link underscore link. And it's never going to return the name. So this API is going to require a link parameter. So we need to define that every request in its body need to have a link parameter. And if it has a link parameter, we'll implement some actions. If it doesn't, we're going to return 409 saying conflict, which is the HTTP code for the conflict. And we'll display error. Link found. An error description. No link found. Now let's try this API. Like we go to Postman, and it's not called hello anymore. It's called shorten link. And it doesn't work. Let's check our API, our console. Maybe our server is not running. Let's start it. Let's set the request. And now you can see, as we didn't give the link, our API says that no link found. So basically we cannot do anything with this request. So now let's implement what's supposed to happen if we actually pass the link. If user actually passes the link, we're going to respond with status code 201, which stands for created. So that stands for conflict, which is, and we are going to return a short version of the link. At the current moment, let's just hard code it and save. Let's take a look. It doesn't work correctly. Oh, so it shouldn't be paused. It should be paused. Sorry. It still works, but it shouldn't. Let's go back to code. So basically, let's take a look what request body link contains. What's the type of it? Let's save. Let's try to call it. And let's see the console. It's a function. Okay, I verified what is the problem, and basically we need to check for the length, because this is not encoded. The data is not encoded yet, so we need to do it later on, but at the current moment this will be sufficient. Let's try it now. It works when we pass the link. If we pass nothing, we get conflict. So now it works. That's it for today. I hope you find this video helpful. So hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episodes every Monday.